Hello everyone. We will be revising the contents of AWS FTP Day 3. Firstly, we are going to learn how to launch a Linux instance using AWS and make a web server using the same. Then we will be making an auto server using bin bash commands. And lastly, to get a hands-on experience of launching an instance and making web server, we'll be diving into AWS. Web packages are supporting software which allow the user to access the backend. It is basically the software that supports the web application. Some of the known web packages are Tomcat, HTTPD, and GIX. The web package we'll be using to create our web server is HTTPD. When a web package is installed onto a normal instance, then it's called a web server. So commonly used Linux commands are sudo su, which provides root privilege, yum update y updates the OS, yum install httpdy installs a web package, cd/var/www/html is the path and directory we are currently in, ls shows the files in a listed manner, and pwd is the present working directory. chkconfig httpd on makes sure that the web package is on even after the system starts or reboots. Cat filename sees the contents of the file name. Echo text index.html displays the text, and service httpd start means that the web package has started. Now we are going to do this ourselves. To launch a Linux instance, we need to go to console.aws.amazon.com and log into our pre-existing account. Make sure to create one if you don't have it. Now we need to search for a specific service called EC2. EC2 helps us create instances, and we can do lots of things with instances. Once you click on it, you'll be able to see lots of options. Since we want to create an instance, we'll go to the instance section. As you can see right here, we have no running instances, but we should quickly change that by launching one of our own. Go ahead and press the big yellow button on the top right. Firstly, we'll be asked to name our instance, so we'll give it some name like web server because that's what we'll be using our instance for. Then, we'll need to pick out an AMI. Since we're making a Linux instance, we'll have to use Linux as the AMI. These two are the only viable options, so I will be picking the second one. Feel free to pick the first one. The next section is instance type, and make sure to pick out t2.micro because that is the only free one available. Key pair is the next drop box, and it is basically used to securely connect to the instance. I'm going to create an instance over here, and I'm going to name it key server. Keep in mind your instances names can be anything you want. Make sure to save it as a .pem file because we're going to convert it to ppk later using putty. Now we're going to create a security group under network settings. Make sure to allow HTTPS and HTTP traffic to bypass firewall and proxy. Now we're going to name it. I'm going to name it as SG, and I'll also copy the same for description. Now for the storage section, make sure to not exceed 30 GB because that is the limit for free storage utilized by the instance that has been imposed upon us by Amazon. Now we can launch the instance. Now you can see that our instance is still pending. As you can see, our instance is now up and running. Now we're going to convert the PEM file to the ppk file using putty-gen. We are going to load our PEM file, which is going to be under all files, not putty ppk files. Once loaded, we're going to save it as private key. Feel free to give any name you want. I'll be naming it as key server key 1. We will now select our instance which is running already, press select and connect, and then go to SSH client. Over here we have a lot of options, but all we need is the public DNS address which we are going to copy. After copying it, we are going to open putty, the app, not gen, and paste the DNS address under hostname. And then we go to connection, SSH, auth, and then credentials, where we're gonna upload our ppk private key file, and then open. Once opened, we're gonna get our AMI. Over here we can type our commands. The first one is going to be sudo su to to make the EC2 user to the root user. To manually update the OS, we're going to use yum update y. To install the software, we're going to use yum install httpdy. To go inside the directory, cd/var/www/html is used. pwd is to see what directory we're using, and ls is used to see any files in the folder. Echo hi, I am a web server is used to display that on our web server, which we are going to create right now. Now ls is used again to see any files in it, and index.html is the file. So cat index.html is used to see the content of the file. To start the web package, service httpd start is used. chkconfig httpd on is used to make sure that the web package is always running even after the system reboots or starts again. Now we can minimize the tab and go back to our EC2 page. Now select our instance and go to security. Go to security groups and then go to edit inbound roles. So this is the second way of making the network changes. The other way is convenient, so I have done that. So this you can do too. And then we go back to the details tab, copy the public IPv4 DNS address, go to a new tab and paste it down. And there we go, there's a web server. We now have auto web servers and bin bash commands. Launching a web server using bin bash commands in the user data section of EC2 in the AWS console is called an auto web server. The bin bash commands start with #bin bash and is continued with the rest of the Linux commands we discussed earlier. Bin bash commands are as follows. Make sure to take a note of all of these so that you can easily copy paste them in the user data box of the AWS EC2 console. We are now going to try launching an auto web server all by ourselves. Okay, so we've seen how to make a web server using Linux commands. Now we will make an auto web server using bin bash commands. We have to do all the previous steps, but make sure to use the same key pair and security group instead of making new ones. The only major difference between a web server and auto web server is that in the web server we write our commands in the AMI, but then in the auto web server we just drop them down in the user data box under advanced details as follows. Start off with #bin bash sudo su yum update y yum install httpdy cd/var/www/html echo text index.html ls pwd service httpd start config httpd on cat index.html. And now you can launch our instance. So now we are going to wait for our instance to start running. After reloading multiple times, once the instance starts running, select the instance, copy its public IPv4 DNS address, go to a new tab or a window, and you can paste it down. As you can see here, this web server says, "Hi, I'm a web server," and the newly created one says, "Hi, I am an auto web server." So this is the difference between the two. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this session was helpful.